believe we're live. So I'm going to go ahead and call the City of Mount Vernon City Council meeting for January 27, 2021 to order. The time is now 6 o'clock. Item B is our Pledge of Allegiance. So I'll ask our council to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. Item C is our roll call of members, and so I'll go slow and ask council to respond as I call your name. Council member Gary Molinar.
Here.
Council member Mark Hulst.
Here.
Council member Melissa Beaton. Here. Council member Richard Boxsmith.
Here.
Council member Iris Carillas.
Here.
Council member Juan Morales.
Present.
And Council member Mary Hudson.
Here.
All right, thank you. Moving into our consent agenda, we have items A, B, C, D, and E. They consist of minutes, payroll checks, and claims. And I want to thank Councilmember Morales for pointing out a correction that needed to be made in the approval of the January 13 minutes. I'm hoping that council received those corrected ones, and thank you for the eagle eyes. That was great. So
I move approval of the consent agenda.
thank you.
Second.
Motion by Mark and second by Gary to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. All right, under reports tonight, as always, we have a review of our emails from the public, item A, and I'll ask Peter Donovan to present those emails. Peter.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening to you, Council. For as long as City Council is forbidden to meet in public, the public can address City Council by sending an email or writing a letter to City Council. And every 2 weeks, we read those letters here, and it is the public's opportunity to speak to Council. So the email address is likely up on the screen, council@mountvernon.gov, or letters can be sent to City Hall at 910 Cleveland Avenue, Mount Vernon 98273. This week, we have just one email that was sent, and it was sent from Larry Hilliard. And Larry writes, "Dear Mayor and City Council members, I am so very pleased that you are considering an effort to support the Homeless Community Project being spearheaded by Mayor Sexton of Burlington. My wife and I enthusiastically support the use of our taxpayer dollars to help make this project successful. Our country has a homeless problem in every city, small and large, from sea to shining sea. While there are policies that our federal and state governments can and must take to help address this national crisis, I believe that this local project, where the rubber meets the road, is probably the most effective way to tackle this issue. As Mayor Sexton stated, it may not be 100% successful, but it's a worthy start. What better example of bipartisanship and government working together for all can there be than all of us across the region pulling together to make this happen? Thank you for helping to make it happen. Larry Hilliard, Maddox Creek, Mount Vernon."
All right, thank you, Peter. Next up is our department updates. As council knows, we kind of roll our committee time into our business meetings. And so first up is our Parks and Enrichment Service department update, and that's Jennifer Berner, our Parks and Enrichment Service Director. Jennifer.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I will go ahead and share my screen here. Let's see. Okay, is that popping up or no?
It says it started sharing, but we don't see a slide yet.
Let me try one more thing. How about that?
Not yet.
Oh, shoot, it's showing on my side. Well, we did this before and it was working.
So I'm going to stop and I'm going to ask you to share your screen. How about that? Maybe that would work. Try that again, Jennifer.
Okay, so let me go ahead and close this. I'm sorry, we tested it and oh wow. Okay, let's try share screen and how's that?
There we go.
Okay. Let me do one more thing on my side. Okay. So I wanted to just kind of take a moment and share a little bit this evening about where we're going in 2021 with the Parks and Recreation Department. And so first of all, just that first slide, you know, we are so varied in what we do, and that's part of why I love what we do. You know, we have everything from parks and trails to arts to activities for kids, volunteer work. There's so much about what we do that keeps me just so engaged and excited about the Parks and Enrichment Services profession. So with the Arts Commission, I've been working with the Arts Commission to come up with kind of break it up into actual quarters for us to accomplish some projects and some tasks. And instead of just doing a big laundry list, I thought with working with this group, it might be easier to break them out into quarters. So it seems like these are doable chunks of projects and it doesn't quite scare them off. And we took this to the Arts Commission and talked about it at our last meeting and everybody approved it. And so we are looking to move forward. I think our main topics right now are making sure we have a good inventory of all of our art and that we get plaques on some of our artwork that does not have plaques. And also looking at some of the maintenance piece associated with those pieces of art. So we want to make sure we maintain the art that we have. So that is kind of laid out in through the quarters there. And before I move to the next slide, I'll ask if anybody has any questions regarding the Arts Commission work plan for 2021.
Any questions for Jennifer? We have quite an inventory of public art, which is amazing. So looking forward to that brochure.
Okay. So moving on, I kind of took it division by division, and I'll just give you a real quick overview. So with the Parks Division, our main focus this year is going to be improving our current parks. So knowing we don't have a lot of capital money this year and not a lot maybe coming next year, we'll see how revenue goes, but there's a lot that we can do to look at our current parks and how can we enhance what we already have. So part of that is getting a good inventory of our parks and where we're at with them. The other piece is activities in our parks. So what can we be looking to improve our parks toward to bring activities to our parks? We all know that the more positive activity that you can get going in your park, it lessens the negative activity that's happening there. So we're going to be taking a look at that. And then maintenance. Are there some key maintenance things that we can do that will help make our crew's life a little easier? Simple things like if you have a 90-degree angle and you're trying to mow, your mower can't hit that. You're going up and backing up and going forward, where if you can do it at a curve, then you can swing your mower around. And sometimes just those simple fixes help make us more efficient when we're out there working in our parks. So challenging the staff to kind of look at those things that maybe we've always just dealt with and we've never really said, what could we do to fix that? So we're challenging ourselves to kind of take a look at those things as well and not just live by, well, we've always done it that way, challenging us to look at things a little differently and how we can enhance things, not only for us efficiently, but also for our park users and enhance their use. And that's along with then once we've got that, then what improvements do we need to make? Can that be improvements that we can do internally right now? I believe there are some of those things. And then using that information to go forward with how we can build our CIP out to support our current parks. So any to that one? Okay. Facilities division, fairly similar. Again, inventorying of our facilities, looking at what kind of uses do we want to have happening in those facilities. So is there some maintenance or improvements that we need to do to be able to ensure ourselves to be able to do that type of programming or meeting or special event within our facilities? And the other piece there that's not necessarily totally attached to the facilities division, but it's something that we will be working with is the marketing of our facilities. So we've got some great facilities with the lodge and the Vokes Retreat Center. How do we market those so people know what it is that we have and they know how to go about renting them? Any questions on that side? So on the administration side, we're going to be looking at updating our policies and our procedures. So this is kind of a year that I'm saying we're going to be looking at, it's kind of improved customer service, but laying that groundwork to make sure that we have some really good, strong policies, procedures in place as we build and move forward. So I want to set that solid foundation by updating the policies and procedures, looking at our staffing model. Do we have the right staffing model to do the jobs that we need to do and be the most efficient that we can out there? Looking at, it's been a while since and do we have the right prices for our facilities, the right price module set up? We'll be going through and looking at what other cities are charging and doing a comparison, and we'll be bringing that back to council sometime later this year. The other piece is kind of some of our codes and agreements, our park code, taking a look at that, as well as our agreements. We have a lot of agreements with the YMCA, the school district, some different folks that we work with on a regular basis, and see how we might need to update or revise those agreements going forward. And then our partnerships, making sure we maintain the partnerships that we have and how do we strengthen those, as well as looking at, are there other entities that we need to gain partnerships with? Any questions in regards to that? So our city work program, this program, as you know, has been severely impacted by the lack of just COVID stuff going on, the lack of courts meeting. And so this will be a rebuilding year for us. One thing we're doing is kind of taking a look at the job duties and making sure that the duties and responsibilities still align, and do we need to update that? We'll need to rebuild our partnership connections just due to COVID. A lot of things have we haven't had those same connections, so we want to rebuild those. And then rebuild our graffiti and work program through the court system once that gets up and going. Any questions? Then the events and recreation division. So this is our last slide. So we're hoping that we'll be able to bring on our recreation coordinator sometime around April. And so there'll be a lot of rebuilding and reimagining with this side of the house. So obviously, you know, it's going to take some creative thought with COVID still with us, how we can go about doing programming. There's a lot of cities that are tackling this, been researching it with NRPA and just our WRPA. So there are different ways that we can tackle this and go about offering some programs and really focusing on our fall and winter, but seeing what we could do through the summer. Also looking at how we can engage this person with helping us with our volunteer efforts out in our parks. And we need to look at how we recruit instructors instead of just waiting for people to walk through the door. How can we do a good assessment of what our community wants, and we go out and seek those instructors to offer those kinds of classes? We need to come up with a good marketing plan as well. How are we going to market what we do? If people don't know what we're doing, we're wasting our time. So we want to make sure we're getting that information out there. And then sponsorships and partnerships, figuring out what those look like going forward and which ones can help benefit when we come to that new program delivery service. So that's just kind of wanted to give it to you in a big overview. If you have any questions, I'm certainly always available to, if you want to call and chat about anything or any questions that you might have right now.
Okay. Any questions for Jennifer before we move along? And as always, oh, go ahead, Gary.
Hey, Jennifer, on tonight's agenda, I see we're moving forward with the fireworks. Are we kind of looking down the road as far as the concerts up on the waterfront?
So we didn't put any funding in the budget this year for that, knowing that we weren't going to be bringing a person back until April or May or later. So that wouldn't give us enough time to plan those things, but we are looking at maybe we could shift some things around. There might be some ways to go about doing an outdoor movie, knowing that that's kind of looking at those outdoor functions. Just budget-wise, we didn't put the concerts in.
Okay.
And Gary, that's a partnership also with the Chamber of Commerce. I don't mean to put Peter on the spot, but he's on the board. So I don't, Peter, do you know if the Chambers had any conversation about the concerts as well?
You're really putting me on the spot.
I know, I'm
sorry. They are planning to do the concert series. So yes, it's on the books, and then like everything else from 2020 and early 2021, it's let's wait and see how it goes. But the plan is to move forward with the series. Yes.
Great.
We'll certainly then connect with them and see how we can partner up with that.
Yep. But some good kind of leaning forward into positivity, I think, as you'll see in our discussion of fireworks later. So, okay. Any other questions? All right, thank you. All right, moving on then, our department update from our finance department. So Doug Valesky's here. Doug.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. So today I'm just going to give you a very brief update on some of our revenues for 2020, and then we'll continue our discussion a little bit with Icicle and Andy on the Recycle contract discussion. So I believe I'm sharing my screen right now. So again, I just wanted to, let's see, maybe move it forward here. Okay. All these numbers here are not final. We're still bringing revenues in, and we have to do some adjustments for accruals and stuff. So what I'm giving you are not finalized numbers yet, but just kind of give you a good idea of where we are right now. So on this first screen here is our total general fund. Overall, we've been very pleased with the revenue compared to what we possibly could have happened with COVID, and so. With these numbers here, they do include the 2020 budget amendments, such as $897,000 for GEMT, and also the $1.6 million of the CARE Act funding. So overall, we had a budget of $29.1 million, and we actually brought in just over $28 million. So we were down about $1.1 million overall in the general fund. So on a $28 million budget, it's about 3.8% below of what we were expecting to bring in. Looking again at the general fund, just looking at our total tax revenue, this is pretty incredible how well we came in here. As you can see, our budget was almost $21.1 million, and we brought in $21,156,000, so about $59,000 more than what we anticipated. So again, extremely close budgeting. Hey, we did good with our budget projections. So again, feel very fortunate to bring those in like we had anticipated. So again, this is the total tax revenue. And please just stop me if you have any questions on any of these here. Looking at the property tax revenue, we brought in, our budget was again, this is just for the general fund, $5,049,000. We brought in $5,082,000. So again, right at 100% of what we brought in. This does not include the portion that from the Parks Department with about $1.5 million in property tax, and then the library about $1.35 million of property tax. So total in property tax, we brought in just under $8 million, $7,941,000. So right where we anticipated at being at when we did our budgeting. Sales tax, our budget was $7.8 million, and we talked a lot about this in the last several months. We ended up bringing in about 7.9 million, about $125,000 over what we had budgeted. So this was good news, about 1.6% over what we anticipated. And just kind of going over some of the details on this. And by the way, before I forget, in your council finance, in your council directory under finance, there are more details on all these revenues and more graphs and things to look at. So they're all there and more details if you want more. Just wanted to cover a little bit on the sales tax. Started reporting to this to you last year, yeah, with the NICS codes tables. And what's kind of amazing is looking at overall what was going on over the year with COVID and everything. We brought in about $168,000 over what we did last year. But when you really look at the percentages overall in all these different categories and the total dollar amounts, there wasn't, a particular area that was really showed a huge increase over others. Obviously, by percentage here and there, our biggest jump was in the retail trade at this 57%. So just to touch on a few of these here, construction was about 9.4% of our total sales tax revenue for this year. It was 12% last year. Retail sales was 57%, and it was 54% last year. And so just to break out that retail a little bit further, you can see here that motor vehicles and parts dealers, that was about 20% of our overall increase. And this is where we see our biggest increase, even though it was only about 2%. We had 34% of our total of this category last year and 36 this year. So again, looking again at all these numbers and the percentages, there wasn't any, everybody just pretty much stayed on where they were. So again, there's more details on all this stuff in that drive if you wanted to look at that. Any questions on these before I move forward?
Okay.
All right, and then looking at our ambulance services. Now this is a pretty quirky chart here. So we're just going to move on to the next one. No, I'm just kidding. It's due to the accruals that we have in this and the way these revenues come in, we had to remove the January and February collections, and which were actually November and December's of last year's. And then, so we're still waiting for 2 more months to come in here. So even though that it shows December, total, we've collected $1.3 million. By the time we get the next 2 months of revenues receipted, and they will be reflected in this fiscal or in 2020 year, we're going to probably make up this amount. So we're going to be really close to that $1.6 million. So I apologize if this is really misleading, but I was trying from our last audit, if you remember, there was an issue with some of the way we were doing our accruals. So I was trying to make all these charts as consistent and close as possible that I'm showing the amounts. But this one, I kind of left it like this for you to see what we're doing. So we're still waiting for 2 more months to come in. And I think we're going to be really close to that 1.5, 1.6 million budget number. And then our real estate excise tax. This is both REIT 1 and REIT 2. Remember, REIT 1 is for our capital improvements, capital projects, and REIT 2 are for streets capital projects. Again, a very good year for us with REIT. We brought in 122% of what we had budgeted. We budgeted 1.4 million, and we brought in 1.7 million, so $307,000 over what we anticipated. So as you can see, we were kind of off the chart here. We started off really strong, and then it leveled out, and then it actually dropped. We had a few really low months, and then it picked right up again. So, and just a little more detail on the next slide here for that. Just showing a comparison of where we where we were with the past few years. So you can see starting in the 2007 we were high and dropping way down, and then in 2019 we collected $1.4 million. 2020 we had budgeted 1.4 million, but we brought in right now 1.7 million. And then we'll see how we do for next year. Again, we have the budgeted number for 2021 is 1.4. So you can kind of see on what's happening there with REIT.
And Doug, before you go on, and I just want to acknowledge a conversation I had with Councilmember Holtz, where we'll have some more conversation around REIT in our February conversation with finance. But so I asked Doug to put this slide in so that it could kind of get folks thinking about the volatility of REIT depending on the economy and maybe some decisions we would want to make moving forward. So that was for you, Mark.
Thank you, Jill.
You're welcome.
Okay, with that, this is my last slide before I move on to ESCO. Does anybody have any questions? Again, I'll be giving more detailed revenue final numbers as we get closer and finalizing our year. But any questions? All right.
Okay.
With that, ESCO and Andy, you're on.
Okay. Thank you, Doug. As the council and mayor know, we've been working with waste management to develop a new recycle contract because the one we're working on currently is going to expire in a couple of months. So tonight I just wanted to add just a couple of points, and Andy's here to help me out if we need it. A couple of points, we'll be talking to you more about this, but first I want to say that waste management does a good job with us and we're happy with their service. But there's also, there's not a lot of feasible alternatives. We could decide to do the curbside recycle, residential recycle ourselves, but that would require purchasing 3 or 4 trucks and staffing up with people to drive them and doing a few facility improvements. So that would be quite an undertaking, and I'm not sure we'd be able to, it'd be pretty close in cost. We'd have a hard time for a while. So my point is there's not a lot of options there, and waste management, though, does a good job. But I'm kind of bracing you for the fact that as you know, we're going to have a substantial increase on this. And the increase is going to be from $5.92 to $10.54. Doug, could you give me the next slide? Mostly in this new recycle contract, the substance and what we do is everything's pretty much the same. There is one change where we're proposing that waste management start managing the billing of their services instead of the city. Now, the cost of that, we asked for them to give us the detailed information about that. It's about 10% of the increase that we're talking about that I showed you from the $5.90 something to the $10 and change. And so it's 10% of that, 47 cents. And that's something that it cost us more to provide that service than that. So it's a good value for the city, and we're going to recommend that to you folks. 90% of the costs, like I said, of the increase are explained by cost escalation and the poor recycle market. We're still working with waste management to give some more detail so that we can look under the hood on what that is, and that's something we're still at this point. I just have to give it in general terms, and we'll follow with more information from waste management. I'll make a general comment that our proposed rates are going to be they're going to be like lower than what they get charged in the county by $1 in the unincorporated areas, and then we're a little bit higher than some cities. But all of the contracts with waste management as they come due, they're going to be going up. So we're doing okay compared to others. And then like I said, Andy's here if you got any questions, he can help me out.
Okay.
But we'll be talking about this more. I just wanted to really just provide a couple of points tonight.
Questions from council on this item?
I got one. I just want to hear ESCO correctly if I'm hearing him. The reason the other cities are lower is because their contracts are not up yet. Is that correct?
Yeah, and again, Andy will they're not really apples and oranges or apples and apples comparisons, but yeah, when their contracts come due, some of them are coming up in a year or two, they'll be going up substantially too. But
Okay.
yeah, that's
All right.
correct.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, Esco, I forgot to actually confirm, when do we think we'll be coming forward with a contract?
Well, I have a draft that I can show to the council. I've been told by our attorney staff that I can send that out for you, but we're still looking at our timeline is having this. We want to be able to transfer over in May, I believe, is when we'll have to. So we've got a couple months to work on this, and it's mainly going to be the dollars. But they have a 90-day offer out there is what these numbers are good for. And if we're going to have to do some public hearings. Anyway, I'm sorry, Mary, I'll have a draft for you already. I've been presented one that I can give to you. It was just given to me a couple days ago.
Okay.
But,
So
I'll
I think,
share that. Yeah.
oh, go ahead, Richard.
Yeah, I just wanted to recognize and thank staff for putting together the memo that we got in our packet. It was just a little bit more detail than was just presented. That really answered the questions we had. Was it last week or a couple weeks ago? That broke down these costs and then different options if the city did the billing versus waste management. So it's just really clear and helpful. Unfortunately, I'm not very confident I know what the right answer is. So I'm looking forward to a discussion with smarter people than me about how to address this, because it looks like it would be a little bit cheaper if we did the billing, but it could be more confusing for citizens, constituents. So not sure where to go with that.
Well, that's where I think I'd like to get some feedback from council on your thoughts. So, because we don't want to run up against a May timeline, to make these decisions. So, what I'll have ESCO do is maybe circle back around with council and just see what questions you may have that we want to address, and then have it back on for discussion in 2 weeks, so that we can bring forward answers to those questions. So, does that sound like a plan to move it forward? Okay, great. So Esco and Andy, I'll charge you with that for reaching out to council members.
Yeah, and I'll just piggyback real quick, Mayor. So we're
Sure.
truly trying to get a finalized contract to you by the middle of February, so we can move forward and hopefully have all your questions answered. But feel free if you have other questions, we can get you information you need, and we're trying to finalize a few things in the current contract, and our current contract expires March 31st, so April 1 we'll roll in with a new contract.
Okay. Okay, great. All right, then we'll go ahead and move along. Okay, council member comments. Any council member comments tonight?
I might just pitch in that it's been a weird year. We're coming out of some of the worst of it now. But one of the fun activities that's coming up this Friday, usually it's the last Friday of January, is the Illuminate Winter Walk. It's a partnership with the city and Skagit Watershed Council, Tri-D Arts, Downtown Association, Rick Epting Foundation, Mount Vernon Arts Commission, city. And I think folks are pretty familiar with it. So this year is going to be virtual. We'll be streaming for an hour and sharing some of the artwork and poetry and announcing contest winners. So folks should be able to find that at Illuminate Skagit on Facebook, or we'll get it up on YouTube as well. So if all else fails, you can find it at the Skagit Watershed Council website. So that's Friday, this Friday. What is that, the 29th at 6 p.m.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any other council member comments? Okay, moving on to mayor's report. So I just have a couple slides to share. Let's see if I can do it like everyone else. You kind of wonder sometimes if you're going to be able to make it work. Okay. There. Just a reminder for not just our city council, but for the entire public that our state legislative session is in full swing right now. And despite the request to limit bills that maybe really need to be focused on, there are hundreds of things that we're trying to keep track of. Especially things that impact the city. So just wanted to throw up a screen about our state legislators. As I've said in the past, that we actually have 2 legislative districts that represent the city of Mount Vernon, the 10th legislative district and the 40th legislative district. And so if you go on to the Ledge website, you can find each individual legislator's page that talks about what bills that they're working on. These are their emails, their phone numbers, really making sure that you reach out to them on bills that are super important to the city is really important for us. We do as much as we can to engage, but the more voices that they hear, the better. Next slide is same thing, let your voices be heard. If you go onto the legislative website, which is www.ledge.wa.gov, you can click on lots of different things to find. You can contact your legislators, comment on a bill, etc. And one other screenshot I was going to show is this is an example. So this is a certain bill that actually the city of Mount Vernon I am extremely concerned about, House Bill 1203. On this screen, this is what it looks like. You can comment on the bill. You can get email notifications on where this particular bill is. You can see what sponsors are promoting the bill and engage, which is really, really important, especially on bills that could significantly impact not only the city services, but our city budget. So as we get a little bit further into the process with our legislative session, when bills really start coming out of the committees, when they proceed to the floor, that's where we'll probably reach out and ask our community to engage along with us. But just thought I'd share that. All right. Moving along from Mayor's report, item E is our council committee agenda requests. Are there any agenda requests? Maybe I'll ask, go ahead, Mary.
I would like to tag on with last week's presentation from Mayor Sexton about the emergency shelter project.
Okay.
I would like to request a briefing, if you will, from Erin Von Femp, so she can discuss with the council what impact it would have for her work to have us partner at some point or in some way with this project.
Okay. I love it when great minds think alike, because Chief Kamek has anticipated those questions, and I believe we're going to have that for next week at our Public Safety Committee. So thank you so much for asking for that information. Perfect. All right. I think I was going to reach out to Councilmember Morales. I think you had a citizen that asked about something that maybe you'd like to get on an agenda.
Certainly. Thank you, Mayor Boudreau. I had a Mount Vernon resident reach out to me a few weeks ago and wanted to get an update on railroad crossings through the city and what could happen or what could one do to minimize what appears to be maybe the decibel levels as the trains run through the city. So if possible, if we can get an update on information on that topic there, please.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes. All right. Seeing no other committee agenda requests, we'll move along. Thank you. Under new business tonight. So item A, it is approval of an agreement with Western Display Fireworks, and our Parks and Enrichment Services Director, Jennifer Berner, is here to talk about this item. Jennifer.
Good evening again, Council and Mayor. So I'm excited to bring this to you this evening. It's a sign of us bringing back some normalcy to our lives a little bit here, even though it might look a little different this year. It's exciting to think that we can provide something like this to our public. So I'm looking to ask you to approve our agreement with Western Display Fireworks. They're who we have worked with in the past, and they've done a great show. I've worked with them at other cities as well. Our funding for this is through the lodging tax, so it's not pulling anything from our general fund. It was fully funded through our lodging tax. So I'm open for any questions you might have. and then we can ask for approval.
Okay, any questions for Jennifer on this? We want to remain positive and make sure that we're going to celebrate in July. It may be slightly different depending on where we're at with our COVID pandemic, but we figured even if there still are some restrictions, we can produce something that would be a benefit. So, Richard.
Maybe just a quick context question. I know we upped the scale of our fireworks display. Was last year the first year or 2 years ago?
I think it's been a couple of years.
Okay. And is this one going to be on the same par as those, or what's the plan for the year?
Yes, so it's all based on the amount of money that you can purchase your fireworks as to what kind of buck you can, bang you can get for your buck. And so we are on par for our show that we have coming up for this year is similar to what we had in 2019. So I think it's almost identical to what they were going to do for us for 2020.
But do I detect an interest in spending a little bit more money for a bigger show? I'm just asking.
I think we're all aware that we didn't have the show, and we had quite a pent up demand in the community, and people were out maybe not always following all the rules in the city. Not sure if that would help or not, but having a nice show, I think would really be good for us for sure. I don't know what the options are.
Well, as I read through the contract, I see that, there are cancellation fees, and I totally that was one of my questions, but I went through and read it again. But, I heard wonderful things about the 2019 show. So I think if it was on par with that, I think our residents would be pretty happy. Mm-hmm. And then as we move forward, we could maybe consider putting a little bit more and growing it. But I'm happy. I'm thrilled that it's on the agenda, and I know that probably most people are very excited about it. So it's a great thing.
Okay, great. All right, any other questions about this? All right, we would be looking for an approval for the agreement.
I'll move the approval of the agreement with Western Display Fireworks.
Thank you.
I'll go ahead and second that motion.
Thank you. So a motion by Mark and a second by Juan. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed tonight? Motion carries. Thank you very much. We will look forward to that into July.
Thank you.
All right. All right. Item B tonight is a contract for Public Defense Conflict Counsel Services, and Peter Donovan will present. Peter.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, you're likely aware that the city contracts for public defense services for people who can't afford to pay for an attorney to represent them in court. The city's primary public defense contract is with Mountain Law. However, when any conflict may arise that could prevent Mountain Law from representing a client, the city also maintains a roster of skilled, experienced criminal defense attorneys who commit to conforming to the city's adopted public defense standards. So the city is continually enhancing this roster of attorneys, referred to as conflict counsel attorneys, to maintain a high level of service. And before you tonight is a contract with Ms. Lorenzo for public defense conflict counsel services. Ms. Lorenzo has an excellent record of providing quality legal defense services, and tonight staff is recommending that council make a motion to authorize the mayor to enter into this agreement with Lorenzo for public defense services.
All right, any questions for Peter on this particular item?
I'll make a motion that council authorize the mayor to enter into an agreement with Ms. Lorenzo.
Second.
I would like second.
Thank you. So a motion from Melissa and a second from Iris. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 All right, any opposed tonight? Thank you, motion carries. All right. Moving on to item C, it's an amendment to a contract with Community Action of Skagit County. And Peter's here for this one as well.
Thank you, Mayor. In July of 2020, the city contracted with Community Action of Skagit County for the distribution of CDBG COVID relief funding. This funding has been directed toward eviction prevention efforts, and it totaled $110,000. So to date, Community Action's been able to distribute approximately $42,000 of this funding. The original contract had an expiration date of December 31, 2020. However, it's become clear that a little more time is going to be necessary to identify qualified recipients for this funding. So in recent weeks, the mayor has connected Community Action with the Mount Vernon police officers who are proactively helping to identify some needs. And this program has really proven to be a success, and we're hopeful that the remaining amount of the eviction prevention funding will be distributed by year end. And with that, staff is recommending that council amend the terms of this contract, changing the date of expiration from December 31, 2020 to December 31, 2021.
Questions for Peter on this particular item? All right. Be looking for an motion to amend the contract.
I move to approve the amended agreement with Community Action.
Second.
Thank you. So a motion by Gary and a second by Mark. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed tonight? All right, motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item D tonight is an amendment to an agreement with Transpo Group USA, and Bill Bullock in our Public Works Department is here. Bill.
Good evening, Council. So the Goshen Trail project is moving right along. If any of you have been out there recently, they've completed all of the conduit and trench work. Next, PSE will be coming in. This contract amendment with Transpo is the company that designed the project, and they've been providing some construction management support for a few of the different changes we've had on the project as we got into it. And this contract amendment provides for that contract management, and it's still well within our project funding. Any questions?
Questions for Bill on this? Pretty straightforward.
Well, looking forward to getting it done. I would make a motion to authorize the mayor to approve and sign the attached contract amendment with Transpo for an increase of $32.62 for not to exceed $27,323.
Thank you.
Second.
All right, motion by Richard and a second by Iris. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed tonight? Motion carries. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Council.
All right. Item E tonight is for the good of the order, the COVID-19 pandemic response and discussion. So I just had one. I'm going to just share my screen one more time and want to just share a little bit of information for the community. Let me go through my slides. So there's a lot of discussion around, of course, the vaccinations. And so as we kind of mentioned last time we spoke, you know, it's a bit of a clunky rollout. It's pretty decentralized. And so lots of folks think that perhaps Skagit County Public Health would have all the information, but they actually don't. So I want to point folks online to coronavirus.wa.gov. Here you're going to find a great tool, which is called Phase Finder. And this is where you can put in a little bit of information about yourself and find out if you're ineligible in the current phase for the vaccinations in the first place, and really see where you fall. The other is a vaccination finder, and this actually shows those entities that have been granted the ability to administer the vaccination through Department of Health from our state. And so you'll find at least kind of vendors that are doing that. Now, here's a little bit of a catch though. the amount of vaccinations that are available, still continue to be fairly small. But as the Biden administration rolls out a little bit more, introduces the Defense Production Act, et cetera, we really know that this amount and the amounts that are going out to be distributed are going to just increase. And so we're really asking for the public's patience. The city doesn't have anything to do with the public health initiatives and vaccines, but we're trying to share some information about it. Just asking folks to be as patient as they can, continue to go online and take a look at information. And then I know that the county public health department in our briefing this morning, they just have concerns that they don't know how much vaccine they're going to get until, say, the Friday before. They're supposed to have appointments the next Tuesday. So they're trying their very best. They've got the infrastructure set up for those vaccinations at our county fairgrounds. And so once we receive more and more doses and are able to ramp up, we will be able to get to everyone. It just takes a little bit of time. So, of course, information can be found on skagitcounty.net under county public health information. We actually have provided those links on our own city website for folks looking for information as well. So, and that's kind of what I've got for right now. Is there any questions from council or things we can help at least get information out? Okay.
Jill, I got a little question. Obviously, every day the Department of Health comes out with the numbers, and obviously we're as a county we're trying to get down where we need to be to move on. I'm just looking at Seattle Times, and they list that every day, but it's kind of frustrating a little bit because they're talking about there was 1,800 cases in the state, but the new cases may include up to 480 duplicates. Well, so, and then as I went down a little bit further, it says the daily cases reports may include duplicate test results assigned to the wrong county, results that are reported for today but are actually from a previous day, occasional false positive tests, and other data discrepancies. When we're dealing with our county and if they're putting in more than we need, or that kind of is discouraging.
Right.
Do you know what the answers are, or is our individual health department, when we have those numbers coming from you, are those absolutely correct, or are they just going off the states?
So the numbers, our public health department absolutely collects data and sends it to the state. And, we talked a little bit about the perils of decentralization and kind of, there's not maybe one particular source of data in a county. And I think that's where a lot of the confusion lies. The county can report their data of the testing site that they're doing, but gathering data from all the different sources just gets really confusing. And so I think that's what we're seeing is sort of the effects of decentralization. I don't know if that helps. We kind of went there from not having, say, like specific things flow from, say, the federal government in one central point to the state and then out to central points in the counties.
Because the 480 duplicates that's to me is quite a big number when you're dealing with 1,800 new cases. And so anyway, that's just my thoughts.
Yeah, it's frustrating for sure. I think as we roll through, and again, kind of being as patient as we can as we have vaccination rollouts, that becomes a little more confusing because I think there's more than 4 places to do vaccinations in our county, including private business. And so, we're just trying to support county health, who's really doing a phenomenal job given their task, and helping however we can without maybe overstepping some information. We've offered up our paramedics, if there's a way for us to help the county in vaccinations, if it's something where we can help with some mobile vaccinations or specific work groups that we can help get through and facilitate, the city of Mount Vernon stands ready to assist county health any way we can.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right, any other questions from council? All right, with that, we've completed our regularly scheduled agenda items. So I'll ask Kevin, our city attorney, if there's a need for an executive session tonight.
There is, Mayor. I'd invite the city council to meet in executive session for a period of 20 minutes. Selection of a site or the acquisition of real estate by lease or purchase when public knowledge regarding such consideration would cause a likelihood of increased price pursuant to RCW 423110 subsection 1B, and moreover, to discuss with legal counsel enforcement actions, litigation, or potential litigation to which the city, the governing body, or a member acting in their official capacity is or is likely to become a party when public knowledge regarding such discussion would likely result in either adverse legal or adverse financial consequence pursuant to RCW 423110 subsection 1I. Again, 20 minutes, no action after.
All right, thank you. Then we'll be adjourned into executive session at 6:56. I'd ask council to remain on our Zoom while we get ready for our executive session. Thank you.